In this video, we will discuss with index, match, dependent validation list, how to character between two text, how to want to text value. We want to do this value with the using of dependent validation list. We can use this video and dependent validation list. It means that one drop down box dependent on another drop down box. This is called as dependent validation list. Here we will share my screen. Yes, you can now see that how to dependent validation list. With using of dependent validation list, first we will use for this value is how to use this value in the using of dependent validation list. You can see here. Here is a character and random between value, what a value is. For example, 59 to 64, 67, and character functions. This is a character value. Here is a character is coming from 69 to 70. I'm writing down 69 to 70 value. So this value is coming from your side, and this one is the all other value. It will be put out here. You can now drag this value, drag this functionality. You can different functionality, different values coming from your side, 69 to 70, because 69 to 70. If I'm putting 90 values, you can see here character between 69 to 70, all the value is coming from character value. So now this is useful from your side. Whenever you are using character between value, between of the two values, you can use this value from one to one character to another character value. This is from in between of the two values. You can put out this value with using of character function. So now random between character, it's now clear. Random or character, it will become. Now we will use the function. For example, I'm putting here course, PT, PTC, ER. This all are the course names. In the TT, value is first TT, second TT course, and third TT course. The next is TTC. In the TTC, first TTC course, second TTC course, and third TTC course is available. And ER, first year, second year, third year, this other course. Now, what we want is first select this value, data. We will convert into the table. Insert and table. My table as a header value. This is your first table. Insert and table. This is your second table name. Insert table. This is your third table name. Insert table. This is your third table. Why we convert the table? Because if you are converting into table, you can add or update or delete the any value. It's automatically adding with your table. So we will convert to the table. It's a more useful when we use this value with convert to the table value. So make sure that all the data is converted to the table. So it's a more useful for this. Now TT, TTC, ER value, all other values coming. Now here we will select the course. basis of course value is selected. Course value is selected. Course TT, TTC, you can see that if I'm adding one value, this is 4 TT value. If I'm adding this value, it's automatically converted to the table. 4 TTC value, this is automatically converted. Here 4 TR value, this is automatically converted with the table name. So make sure that this is a useful from your side. You can do with anything with the TT and TRs. Now, what can I do first? First, select this value, go for the formula tab, name manager. In this name manager, this is a value of course. Table name is course. Then okay. Then new TT table name. This is your name. Table name is TT. Make sure that both the name will be same. The next is TTC value. So here TTC value, same value. The next is ER value and ER value is same. Now all the functionality is clear. We have to first create the table, then create the name manager. Because with using of name manager, we will use the functionality. So this functionality is very useful from your side. Whenever do the dependent validation list, at that time you have to make sure that all the data name is same as it is. If the name is TT and the name manager I will put out TT1, then both will be conflict. So result is not perfect. With using of name manager, we will create the particular value of data validation. Otherwise, else we cannot create the dependent validation. For example, if I'm putting here data validation, in this data validation, you have to put out one list. Now you can see that how to use this value from using this one. First, you have to show that TT value is coming from your side, right? TT value, this is coming from your side. So TT value is coming. Now we want to put out this value with using of TT value. On the dependent validation list, you make sure that you have to drop down list from created on the basis of TT value. So make sure that TT value is very useful from your side. Now one drop down box is clear. On the uses of this drop down box, you have to put out dependent validation list with using of TT value, right? Now you want to use this value with using of TT value. So make sure that you have to create another dependent validation list. Yes, if I'm wanting this data validation list with using of this value, data validation, any value from we created data validation list, but list on this basis. So we have to create a TT value on this number. So we have to create on the basis of this one. Then in the same place, we want to use indirect function. What do you mean by the indirect function first? Then we want to use this function with use this function. For example, I'm press F1. If I'm pressing F1 and write down the value is indirect, indirect function. Indirect, it's what? Directly call the another cell reference, it's called as an indirect function. For example, indirect reference of text and a reference of text, it's been that one. What is your reference text value? This is a refer into the indirect text value. For example, here is a B2 value is 1.33, then B3 value is 45, George value is 10, 5 value is 42, and so on. If I'm pressing indirect of A2, for example, indirect of A2, value of reference A2, here is a data A1, A2. This is a A1 value, for example, A1, A2. For reference of A2, the cell reference of B2 which contain of 133. Reference of A2. Now, indirect of A3, value of reference in cell A3. A3, it's a 45. Now it is clear from your side, A1, A2, A3. Indirect function of A4, because of cell B4 has defined the cell purchase, the reference defined name to be cell B4. B4 that contain the value of 10. Indirect of A4, this is purchase value, A1, A2, A3, A4, then A2, the sys value, A2, indirect function reference of this value, indirect function of B. Here you can see that indirect function of column number B value is A5 is a 62. B and A5 value. A5 value is 5, which is 5. Cell number B5. B5 value is 62. B2 value is 133. It's a reference of this value. For example, this is A column, A1, A2, A3, A4. If I am pressing A2, A2 reference is what? B2, and B2 reference is what? 133. Here is A3, A3 reference is B3, B3 reference is 45. A4, this is Borges, and Borges value, it will be defined as a cell B4. So cell B4 is the 10. Indirect function of B, A5, A5 is a 62. Indirect function is value of indirectly to identify of some another value. At that moment, it will be useful when we use the indirect function. So make sure that indirect function with using of this value, you have to find out indirectly dependent value with another value. It's called as indirect function. So make sure that indirect function, you will be using the indirect function on this basis. For example, if I am putting here indirect for what? Indirect of for value of, for example, t. This is called as a name function error because this function is not available from your side. For example, I am pressing here O1, this is value is 25. For example, if I am putting here indirect of reference text O1. O1, this is called as a reference error. Why it is a reference error? Because indirect function have a no any reference value. Here you can see that you have to put out the value with using of indirect function. Indirect of A2. A2 is what? Ultimately B2 and B2 value is 133. If I am placing here indirect value of B1. You can see here this value is PT because O1 specify the B1 value and D1 specify the TT value. So now you have to clear about this. Indirect function ultimately gives the reference of another value. So we have to clear this. If I'm saying that, control that. Here we will write down K5. What do you mean by the K5? This is 4ER value. This is your KR value. Why we use the dependent validation list first? If we will use the dependent validation list, if we have a different country, on the country basis, you have to depend into the another value. At that time, dependent validation is used. For example, we have two country, India, Pakistan. On the basis of country, we have to find out the state. At that time, we want to use this value on the country on the basis of state value. So you have to use this value on the basis of this one. For example, if I'm putting here F4, this is value is here. This ultimately refers to the indirect of F4. F4 is an ER, so it will be find out this value on the basis of ER. So make sure that you have to find out the value on the dependent of another list. Most probability in your project is as useful when the basis of country to the city. You have to find out country on the basis of city. At that time, you must be find out this value country basis of city. You have to use this value country on the basis of city. So make sure that dependent validation used when we have to dependent to the another value. At that time, we will use this value. For example, if I'm putting here any character, for example, any character, yes. Why we use the random between function in the project? We will start from the random function. Why we use the random? Why we use the random function? Randomly text between from particular text to particular text. At that time, random between function is used. For example, random between is only work with a numeric functionality. For example, 50 to 100 value. So at that time, it's only for numeric value. For example, if I'm putting here the random between function, for example, we will using the character of random between function, and the bottom value is 100, and for example, we will 75 and 90. At that time, we will use this functionality on the character basis. This is 0. 45 to 90. If I'm putting here 75 to 90, then value is R. Now you can see here, you have to find out this value on the basis of character. This functionality useful for Excel? Yes. You can see whenever in the any online website, at that time, you have to see when is capture code is coming. Capture code is what ultimately? Capture code on the basis of this functionality. This is a refresh this value. If I'm pressing refresh this value, automatically refresh the value. You can see. So random between function, this is more useful from your side. When we are create from this value on the basis of particular value, at that time, random between function is created. Randomly text between the two characters, it's called as random between functionality, random of between the two text. So this value is called as a random between function. So make sure that you can use the random function on the basis of this. So now make sure that random between function is clear. You have to put out here also random function working, but we have to put it the random function with using of exact data. At that time, we will use this functionality on the basis of this one. So we will use the random between function when we use the capture code. On that time, we will use the random between functionality. So we can use the easily random between functionality with use of this one. Now you have a clear idea about the random function indirect function, indirect text, indirect function. So now we have one conclusion. We have to create some data validation list on the basis of this one. On the basis of this one, we have to create this list. We can create this list. Now you have to clear about this one. On the basis of indirect function, you have to put out the indirect value. Now we have a confusion. We have to create this functionality on the basis of this drop-down list. This is your first drop-down list. This is your second drop-down list. On the basis of data validation, you have to create a second drop-down list on the basis of this one. We want to create a second drop-down list on the basis of this textual data. We want to create a second drop-down list on basis of this one. Yes, we want to create this list. You have to know about the list is always working, but you give some message in this data validation input message. You have to create some message. Which one value you have selected? Which one value is selected on the basis of first one. So which one value is selected on the first one? At the same value, it will be selected on the second one. So this is a dependent validation list. So you have to clear idea about the dependent validation list. You are giving the any title, any input message. You are creating this message and title here. So you have to create particular value and title here. You put out the value on the basis of this one indirect function list. So now you have to clear OK command. You can see here the messages coming. Yes, this value is coming from your side. Which one value is selected on the basis of this one? So now this is clear from your side. When we put the value, when we create any value on the basis of this one, you have to create this value. So now it's clear which one value we are selected on basis of this one value is selected. Clear this command now. Now go for the data validation, setting, and list. In this list, you have to put out any source value. You have put out any source value, which one you put out. Indirect, make sure that the spelling is not wrong. Otherwise, else we will, for example, if I'm putting indirect wrong or on the basis of force, the name and range you specify cannot be found. It means that which one you are specifying this range, it's a not specify, it's a not a drop down list which you want to create. So this is a wrong value. Data validation and put out the list. If I am indirect, then spacing this value, you can see here which one value is C, which one value is from your side is always coming from the dollar sign. So make sure that the dollar sign is coming from your side. Indirect function, name manager, all this value is coming from this one indirect sign. Now, you can create this value, TT values first, second, and third. If I'm putting here the TTC, so this value is first TTC, second TTC, third TTC, this is your value. If I'm putting here ER value, you can see here the ER value. first year value, second year value, third year value, fourth year value, which all other value is coming from your side. So make sure that all other value is coming from your side. So it is very useful from your side when we are create this value on the basis of first, second, and third. You have to put out this value first, second, and third. If I'm putting it, this value is wrong. For example, if I'm putting here fifth year value, for example. So make sure that you can see here year and all this value is coming from fifth year value. Now you can see here first year, second year, third year, fourth year, fifth year. This all other value is coming from your side. So why we create the table? If the data is in table at that time, data is automatically added when the new, we cannot create the new range in the name manager. It's automatically created. If I am here, we will select some value. It's first, second, fourth, and fifth, for example. Fifth TT value, for example. You can see here, this is TT value and the data is automatically come. Why it is automatically come? Because all the data is converted to the table. So at that time, automatically data is coming from your side. If I'm here, is fifth TTC. Here I am select the TTC value. The automatically value is come first, second, third, fifth. All other value is coming from your side. First TTC, second TTC, third TTC, fourth TTC, and fifth TTC. All other values coming from yours. So make sure that in this video you can use the indirect function. First, we will clarify all the indirect function. Then we clarify the why we convert the data into table part. If it is table part, we can delete this value and add this value. For example, if I'm deleting this value, you can see here is value is ER. Now this data is clear now. Yes, one space is available because you are deleting the data. So at that time, one spacing is available from your side. But we want to use this value on the basis of ER. So this is useful from your side when you are putting the value on the ER basis. So we have to do this value on the ER basis. We select the ER value on the basis of first value. We will select this post value, first ER value, second ER value, third ER value. Automatically all other value is coming from your side. So we have to build this value on the basis of ER value. So we can do this value on the basis of this one ER value, first ER, second ER, third ER, fourth ER, fifth ER, all this value is coming from your side. So make sure that this is useful from the basis of indirect function. This is called dependent validation list. You have to, one confusion is that we have a creator three drop-down list, then what can we do? We can create this two values, merging two values. On this merging two values, we have to create another drop-down list. Yes, three drop-down list is possible. Yes, definitely this is possible. But yes, at that time, you have to create the one dependent validation list on the basis of this one. So you want to create this list on the basis of this one. You are created particularly first drop-down box to second drop-down box, second to third drop-down box. We want to create this value on the basis of this one. Okay, friends, and thank you so much. We will go for the next video.